Welcome to the Dadhammer podcast, where we discuss all things Warhammer. I am your host, David the Warboss, and I am joined by my friends, Medicae Steve.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Steve. And the Bearded Ogre, round number 2. Well, technically 3, I guess. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing great. Hopefully no Noblars chew through my internet, so yeah.
Well, that's all we can hope for, you know. And if it happens, it happens. It's just part of the show. So, well, welcome back, all the listeners, especially those who are watching on YouTube. We really appreciate your support, and I'll go ahead and do a little shout out. Make sure you subscribe to us. We're going to be doing all kinds of content in the future. If you didn't catch our live stream, make sure you check that out as well. We're going to be doing more live streams with the online reveals that are coming through the Warcom site on the Twitch channel, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you check that out. We got a great show lined up for you this time, however, as we're hot on the heels of the Las Vegas Open, LVO. If you're not aware, big tournament, but the reason that we care a whole lot, well, I mean, more, we got the tournament. The tournament's important, but for us, it's all about the reveals of new Warhammer stuff for us to spend our money on. So they showed off all kinds of new miniatures and cool stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to give our reactions and our impressions of what they showed off, but also to get into a little bit of our thoughts on the format of the online preview. Is that going to be something that they're going to change? Are they going to continue with that? Are there improvements? We'll get into all that kind of ordeal, if you will. And then we'll also follow that up with just some discussion around Games Workshop's release schedule for miniatures. Are they doing a better job at listening to customer feedback? They really doubled down on that with 10th edition and 40K. So are they doing a better job with that, or have they gone further downhill, or are they back on the up and up? So all kinds of stuff to digest and dissect. Thank you so much for listening to our show. If you like what you're hearing, make sure to rate, follow, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the places, all the things. And of course, you can check us out on dadhammerstudios.com. All right, enough of that. Let's get into the first topic, the meat of the show. Again, we just had the LVO, Las Vegas Open. We did the live stream. That was fun, first of all. I really enjoyed doing the live stream. I got my espresso in. It was 11 o'clock Central. And us fellow olds we're on the struggle bus a little bit, but we made it. We did okay, right? Everybody stayed awake.
I didn't fall asleep and actually stayed awake for about an hour afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did have, even though it's super duper nerdy to say, I had adrenaline going into the live show. Is that weird? I mean, probably to our listeners, not at all, but I felt weird and awesome at the same time, because it was a live stream and I was getting amped up for reveals of plastic toy soldiers.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's why we're here. Yeah, so I love the live stream. I really appreciate those that tuned in and threw in all kinds of comments. We had some great discussion. That's all up on our YouTube channel if you want to go check out the replay. But it was really, really fun. So let's talk about everything that we saw. We saw a ton. I'll start off with the first reveal. I'll throw it up on the screen here. And that was the first box, the first announcement came from the Killteam game, and it was the Killteam Nightmare box, which included some new models, and I'll put those up on here. Steve, what were your thoughts first? I'll start with you on the Night Lords. It was the Night Lords and the Mandrakes. Night Lords looking, I'm not necessarily familiar with the Night Lords personally, but Chaos Warriors with navy blue. I mean, that's kind of what they look like to me. But you pointed these out first. What were your thoughts when they showed these guys off officially?
I thought they were magnificent. It's not too long ago that I finished the Night Lord trilogy book series, and they're really interesting as far as a chaos faction goes, right? Like they're chaos based Marines, but they don't dabble in the warp. They actually kind of don't like it. I'm not saying they're good guys. They got a skinning problem, and I don't know if I would want to hang out with them. But they have an interesting outlook as to why they turned from the Imperium. It's like, I don't know, it's not so much what Abaddon and stuff, and actually they more or less, flip the bird to Abaddon and the Black Legion and all that stuff, for lack of a better analogy. But yeah, they're pretty cool. They're very punk rock, little gothic guys, and man, I don't know. They're interesting. They're scary, and they did a good job with these sculpts. I mean, half a Space Marine hanging on a banner. Oh,
that's
dude.
pretty brutal.
Mhm.
I mean, the one guy's wearing some skin, for armor. I would say they're like they're almost like an undead zombie thing combined with Chaos Space Marines. It's kind of the vibe that they're giving me. But Stu, I'll go to you next. What were your thoughts on these guys? I know you're a big Ogre player from Age of Sigmar. They kind of have a little bit of an Ogre vibe going on for me.
Yeah, I'd say maybe a little bit. But yeah, they're definitely pretty gnarly. I think one thing that's pretty cool is that I believe this is just like an upgrade kit to the normal new Chaos Marines. So I think that's really cool because like it does not look like it's an upgrade kit. Like these look like brand new sculpts made, for this, this game. But yeah, it's just, I mean, we all know that this is the Grim Dark, and this is definitely Grim Dark. Like half the bodies hanging for, banners and flayed skin everywhere. And yeah, it's definitely, let's just put it this way. If I were to face them in the 41st Millennium, yeah, I'd probably just pee in my pants and just get into the fetal position.
Probably run.
So
yeah, there'd be some retreat going on, strategic retreat, right? We're not gonna run away. We're just gonna do a strategic retreat. There's a difference.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll find a tactical rock to stand on. So
Night Lords want you to run. It's more fun for them. That's what's worse.
It's part of the hunt.
Yeah.
So I like these guys. These guys looked cool. They're different, and not drastically different, but different enough from as a Chaos Space Marine player. I get tired of painting the black and gold over and over again, and now these are just blue and gold, totally different. But sarcasm aside, I do like how they add some extra flair to them, so they're not just the same thing. As a Chaos Space Marine painter. That gets old quick. So it's nice to see some variety. I'm gonna move now over to the mandrakes. I'm not as I've discussed before, I'm a big fan of the dwarfs, and I like all things dwarf, and anything that's got elf in it, I'm usually walking the other way. These guys look pretty cool though. Steve, what were your thoughts on the mandrakes?
So I know very little about Drukhari. I think they introduced the mandrakes, at least for me, in the one Warhammer Plus series, Iron Within. I think they were in there. I'd have to go back and look. But I love the idea that they're not just your normal Drukhari. They're, half like shadow demon or something. So I assume that they can just disappear and reappear and just really make your life miserable. But I think they look really cool. I love how the hair goes over the faces, so you can't really see the faces. The idea of the green, like just sort of weird ethereal flame, and their weapons look gnarly. I mean, I don't know. I think they look really cool. Personally,
they're looking a little vampire-esque. Almost. To me, this doesn't look like Drukhari. This is not Drukhari to me. This is something completely different, and it almost gives me, Stu. I don't know what your thoughts are, but we'll talk about the Cruit later and the difference between the Tau and the Cruit as part of this big LVO reveal. This makes me feel like, all right, you've got the mandrakes and then you've got the rest of the Drukhari, two completely separate entities. And if you wanted to go more into the savage, a little undead looking, especially with the spectral, flames and stuff. What were your thoughts on these guys, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you a little bit. Like, I think actually within like their lore, like they just kind of like ride the tails of what the Drukhari do. Like they don't follow the Archeon, I believe that's what they're called, that lead the cabals. And so they just kind of go to their own, beat to their own drum and do their own thing and just peekaboo out, wherever they want to be, so yeah. But yeah, these models look sick. I mean, the flames, the color looks awesome. I think it's kind of cool, I guess, that like with one of the models, it shows kind of like the weave of the movement within like his arm, and it's kind of reminiscences of the Warcry warband, the Shadow Blades, I believe, because they also have that kind of thing where it's like it's kind of like a wavy kind of aerial ripple through space. So it's kind of cool that I guess that they kind of, I don't know if they just like stole it from them and just stuck it on or whatever. I don't know. Either way, it's still kind of cool.
Shows the motion, right?
Exactly,
the
yeah.
active.
It did, but these models definitely have a lot of motion. Like with the hair, it definitely shows that they're not like in one spot for too long. But yeah, and
that's
also
a good point.
It looks like that they also might have their own kind of flayed skin skirts. There's a lot of de-skinning with this two warbands together.
I think that the active pose is something that they seem to be doing more of, and we've talked about this before, but I like Age of Sigmar models typically have a lot of different types of more active poses to me. They're bigger, they're in the middle of something, they're in the middle of attacking, they're in the middle of if you're a dragon, right, they're breathing fire, they're doing something instead of just standing there. There's very few models, at least the ones that I've seen, the bigger ones, the recent ones, that are just standing still. And when they are, you're like, there are some exceptions, right, that are supposed to be more maybe distinguished or regal, and they're majestic looking. They're supposed to be in a kind of a stationary pose. But these, Stu, kind of going on you said, I agree. They're not in one place for very long, and that's the feel that you get, especially with the flames. It's just they just ignited the flames, or they just got through swinging through an enemy or getting ready to do an attack, and everything's ramping up for these attacks. These models, the Mandrakes, I thought were really cool. And the first time that I had looked at anything Drukhari, I thought, okay, I see what you're doing here. This looked pretty good. So very, very pleased with that. The other piece of the box set that they showed off was the small piece of terrain. I say small, it's probably not that small, but maybe, I don't know, 6x6 inches, something like that, maybe. But it is Killteam Terrain, so your Killteam Terrain's not always going to be really high, or they've been doing a lot more low profile terrain as of late. And if you're playing Killteam, and Steve and I have played quite a few games, this is okay. This will give you a little bit of cover or height, but I always like, and we've talked about this before, I always like having terrain from Killteam or 40K that you can use interchangeably. So if you bought, they used to sell those kill zones with the taller buildings for 40K, where I could take that and play it in Killteam and still have that open air and maybe, pushing off the ledge and some of the extra damage things that they have within the game, but then take it right over to 40K and have a nice terrain piece to put on the center of the table. So for me, a little disappointed in this, but as someone who always has high hopes for some kind of terrain reveal where it's multi-level skyscraper kind of thing, I may be the only one that likes that kind of stuff, and maybe that's why they don't reveal a ton of it. But Stu, I mean, I know you're primarily Age of Sigmar. Did this do anything for you, or is this just kind of?
I mean, it's kind of blah. I mean, but
yeah,
I guess the thing for me is that like it's easy to paint and put on the table quick. Like, I mean, prime it, metallic color, dry brush it with something else, and then that's pretty much it. Like, you got a painted terrain piece on the table. Like, I mean, and unless you want to go super detailed, like kind of what the image shows, and paint the hazard stripes or the different colored, warp lightning within the whatever. But like, it's an easy paint for a terrain piece, and I mean, it does its job, nothing too fancy.
I paint a lot of terrain, and I'll say that usually there's a balance. If you do it too, if you only put just, I mean, it's also always up to the painter, of course, but I tend to put a little more detail into mine. I'll do the lead belcher coat, depending on what kind of terrain piece it is. And then you say, oh, well, I can knock this out really quick. And you go in and you add a few rust effects. And then, oh, man, I should paint those dials. And then you've painted, if you paint one cable a different color, well, now you got to paint all of them a different color. So just as a pro tip, if anyone listening to this is looking to get into terrain painting, just know that it's you need to strike a happy medium. Either be okay with just a couple of paint colors on it, or you need to go all in. I would not suggest painting one cable. Just know that you're going to want to paint all of them after all is said and done. So if you got a terrain piece with lots of cables on it, oh boy, just be ready. Just deal with it. Maybe paint one cable a night, and eventually by 2027 you'll be done. So
just paint the fat one.
That's right. I don't know. This one was okay. This terrain piece was okay. So anyway, moving on to the next announcement was the Warcry set for Pyre and Flood. I thought this one was a pretty cool reveal. Getting into something that more on the Age of Sigmar Warcry side. Stu, I'll go back to you. What were your thoughts on these models?
Oh man, they're great. I mean, I kind of repeat myself almost from the previous one, like great movement. I mean, they've got the green flame thing going on. So whether they had the same painter paint both of them, I don't know. But, I mean.
Probably. Yeah. I mean,
these most likely. I mean, but.
Yeah. The Pyre guys.
Yeah, I think
they're called. I had to look up the name. Yeah.
But I think out of this group so far, I mean, like, obviously the leader with the two kind of shoulder incense burning things is pretty cool. But to be honest with you, I think my favorite ones are the white kind of, wraith looking ones. I think those look pretty cool because there's a lot of like within this army, they paint a lot of them in that kind of black to blue kind of scheme with like a rusty metal. And it's kind of cool to have like a different kind of paint scheme with them. They give me kind of like bear whites or like the like Lord of the Rings or something kind of feel to it. But yeah, I mean, I think they look fantastic. So.
I think they almost look the ones in white look a little more tormented. If you're looking at all of them together, the white ones clearly stand out. Maybe they're the ones that are they've been around a little long, right? So they're going to be joining the retirement home of Pyre guys soon. So they're going to be wheeled down the ramp.
Like that scene in Beetlejuice where they go into the afterlife and they're walking through the hall and they accidentally open the door and there's like,
yeah, these are the ones that you would see, and they look a little rough.
I mean, there's even one in there that's actually kind of doing that motion of the whole like,
this is where ghosts go to die.
Yeah, I mean,
those are very cool.
I liked these guys. And then moving on to I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. The River Blades, the Yidrillin, the River Blades. That's what we're going to go with. Steve? What'd you think of these? I thought they looked a little more like a football team, kind of the referee and maybe rugby or something. But they looked okay. I guess
I was thinking Cirque du Soleil.
Some strings, doing some flips.
I love the poses. I think that's super cool. Maybe I don't know. I think this paint job for me is like, man, that's just too clean, too bright, too white, too happy. It needs to be a little. I don't know. It just needs to tone that down a little bit. You guys should be sad or something.
Well, you and your Slaves to Darkness. That's what you're used to painting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just too much joy there and all that white and turquoise. But I guess it fits their name, River Blades, and etc.
Yeah,
they're good sculpts. I just
happy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not for me personally. So if I were picking up this box set, I'd be looking for the Pyre guys. But to each their own. There's a little bit for everybody. They also had a piece of terrain.
There we go. That's the money maker.
Yeah. So Stu, I'll go to you. You pointed this out on the live stream. I'm trying to figure out. I mean, this almost looks, now that I look at it, it's a, for those listening, it is a guess, part of a ship that has been, blasted off, fallen out of the sky, and it's like half of it is buried into the ground. So this would be a piece of terrain for a Warcry game or an Age of Sigmar game. Really cool looking terrain piece, and looking at some of the paint job, it really wouldn't be that difficult. I think it's a lot of gold, some dark green, and then putting in some highlights, some dry brush. This is one of those where you really could just do some dry brushing, red, green, gold, and some of the blue on this diamond kind of jewel at the top of it. So, Stu, what thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very dynamic terrain piece. It definitely adds more of like a story to your battlefield. I think it's like I said, with the narrative with Warcry and the whole with them trying to get closer to the starship that crashed, to actually start seeing now pieces of the ship is great, because for the longest time it was just bamboo and meat trees. So to actually start seeing now some more actual pieces of the ship is really cool. And the fact that it's that's the crazy thing that I like about some of the terrain that they produce for Games Workshop, is some of the detail that they put in. Because I really like the fact that where his eyebrows is that it's like a star, like a collection,
star chart,
or star chart or something like that. I think that's for like a terrain piece. It's just, I don't know. I just think that's really cool. And I think it looks a little bit like on Master within the Seraphon. So
in the Seraphon,
really so very fantastic. So I mean, to be honest with you, I think this is more of a train kit, and you just get 2 warbands for free. So I mean, for myself, but yeah.
Well,
I'd be curious to see how big it is too. I don't know if this picture does it justice to show how big it is. I mean,
well, I'm sorry, I just noticed that there's flat spots on it, where it looks like you could set at least one.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah,
okay,
like on a cheek or something. That might give you a sort of a scale.
So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 inches by 4 inches wide, 4 to 5 inches wide. I don't know how deep it is either. So I mean, but to me, it looks like it's like a 5x5 kind of thing.
Yeah.
With maybe 3 inches tall. So typical terrain piece, but I think it's cool. And what's good about this, and Stu, buying the box just for the terrain, that'd be something that I would do. But
I love it.
This would look really good on the table in an Age of Sigmar game too. And that's to me, like for those that are on the fence about Warcry or Killteam, the way that I have always looked at these is I'm going to go into 40K and Age of Sigmar. Those are my 2 main games, but they make these shorter, smaller games for people that maybe don't have the space or the time to play the larger games. But the cool thing is that they're kind of interchangeable. So if you weren't sure if you wanted to get into Age of Sigmar completely, but you really like the look of the Pyregeist, you can get this box. You got a terrain piece. You got some really cool models, and then you can start to build on that if you want. So it's a way you can still play a game, a fully fledged game in Warcry, and then build up your force with a couple more units. And over time, now you've got enough to play maybe a small game of Age of Sigmar and still have a fully fledged game in Warcry. So this is one of the things that I think Games Workshop does really, really well. You can have your cake and eat it too, right? You can start small and then build up. So really cool Warcry box. Let's move on. I got a lot more to cover. Let's move on now to me, that was the star of the show, which was the Cruit reveal. Just to be clear, this is not a Cruit, army per se, but man, they got pretty close. This is not like a Cruit faction separate from the Tau. It is a I don't know, I guess you want to say just like a separate sidebar from the Tau. If you don't want to play robots all the time with Tau, you got something completely different. It's a little similar to me when I play orcs. I play more of the Mad Max style of orcs. I like the vehicles and the rust and the crazy. And then if you don't want to do that, you want to go the Beast Snagga boys, which are more of the squigs or like cavemen kind of feel to them, and clubs versus machine guns and vehicles. So this is even a complete departure from what they normally have in the Cruit. This is already something you could do that was a smaller force and now fully fledged. So Steve, going to you, I thought just kind of going with the theme of active sculpts, they did a really, really good job with these Cruit models all looking like they're in the middle of something, either doing a big war cry or coming at you with a blade, all kinds of stuff. I thought they did a really good job with these guys.
Yeah, just pretty amazing stuff. And it's crazy because I know some of them have projectile weapons, things that look like guns. But I mean, gosh, they are so close to being a Sigmar type sculpt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On that level, that motion, that kind of elegance to them. Geez, they just look so. I wasn't real big on the Cruit. I thought some of the only thing I remember seeing was the ones from the Killteam originally. But now that these guys are like, wow, those are really, really cool. I mean, it's not something I'm going to play. Probably not my style necessarily, but I don't know. They look like what the Eldar Exodites could be.
Yeah.
The dinosaur riding Eldar. So I think that's going to fit that space for people. Just something different. This is really, really different. This is a big departure from most of what else 40K is. This is other than orcs. This is nice and primitive, and just I don't know, really cool. It's really cool that you can add it to the Robo Boys if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a different look. I think showing the Cruit talks. I think that's how you say it. The Cruit riding these larger beasts give you a melee charge component, because the tower typically all range, and they're sitting back, pew pew, but this gives you some melee, not completely, right? A lot of the Cruit models they showed off look to me like you've got some range, but you've also got some melee in there. They've got these bone dagger looking things on the end of their guns, so that's probably going to add a little bit of melee, maybe some close combat weapon type stuff. But the shapers, the flesh shaper, and these different models just give the Cruit a more powerful look to them versus just some minions that you throw on the table. I thought they did a really good job with this box set reveal, and they even showed off what I can only assume is the collector's edition of the Tau Codex. How's that going to be $9,000 for a different cover? Now, the cover does look good. I like it a lot better than the previous collector's edition Codex reveals that they've done. The other ones they just didn't do anything for me. This one actually looks a little, looks pretty cool. It's still not worth the extra. I think it's now $30 extra for the collector's edition. But I still think they should add something to the collector's edition to make it truly worth it. But yeah, I mean, I know that the chaplain's not on here with us to talk through his impressions.
Oh man,
man, he was so excited for this release, and I think that this is going to be on his list for sure.
Yes,
for something to get through. So lots of cool models. I am interested to see what this is. They talked about showing more, so this is just the beginning for the Cruit models that they're going to reveal. So I mean, I think this may actually turn into a full-fledged Cruit army. That sounds crazy, but with some of the Cruit talks beasts here, I think they could do more with that. They could make the giant versions of them and have a monster element to them on the Cruit side. So I wouldn't be surprised if this turns into a completely separate thing in the future. So,
man, how cool would it be if they actually came up with like a massive Cruit talks beast, and they've got like a Hadawa or something on their back, and they've got multiple guns hanging off the side. I mean, that'd be sick, dude.
I'm thinking of like a Lord of the Rings elephants, where they have them all hanging on there. Yeah, with the giant tent over the top, and they're all hanging off. I mean, how cool would that be? A huge Cruit talks beast with all these Cruit hanging off. Man, I mean, boy, that would be a cool model for sure. It would be a Forge World, probably, the size that it would have to be. But still would be a cool idea. Well, Cruit, very cool announcement to me, highlighted the show. Move on now to some Age of Sigmar news where they showed off a new narrative book from Dawnbringers, kind of a narrative weave. They're doing Shadow of the Crone, and this came in a box for the Daughters of Cain. I'm going to hit this model. Stu, I'm going to go to you first. This wasn't as active as I thought as some of the others. The theme so far has been these active miniatures that they've released. What were your impressions of the Crow Lady?
I mean, she's okay. I mean, like, it's not my cup of tea. I mean, she's okay. I mean, I do like the wings. They did a great job on the detail of the wings, and they're I like the fact that they're being like ravens and stuff. But the hair and the eyes, I said it on the live stream, and I'll say it again now. Like, she just looks like a female cousin It. Like, I mean, it's just not my cup of tea. But
I'd agree.
I think I don't know. I would have liked the model better if she was more in a more like dynamic pose. Like maybe she was like flying midair with the staff pointed outwards, or I don't know, instead of this kind of like ballerina.
She's
landing.
hunched.
Yeah.
It doesn't look dangerous to me. Like maybe if the wings were spread even more and maybe like bellowing out something, and the crows were cawing at the same time, then it makes me feel like, oh man, I'm getting ready to have a Alfred Hitchcock moment, here at any moment. Steve, I mean, what any impressions for this one?
Not my aesthetic for sure. I think feathers are cool. Feathers are actually cool to paint. Because having Deathwing, I catch a feather now and then. I just noticed it. I didn't notice it before. They're showing in the bottom right hand corner maybe some sort of like scrying dish or something. There's like bones and hair. I'm not sure what the 15 means, but maybe there's some like fortune telling thing. I just noticed that. That's pretty cool. Maybe. I want to see a piece of terrain built off of what she's standing on. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it fits in with the Age of Sigmar aesthetic. There's a lot of that type of color looking, I don't want to say marbled terrain. I think it would be cool. I don't mind the model. I think the model's fine. It's not blowing my mind, but it's not a bad one either. I think it would look cool painted up, and feathers are cool to paint. It's very similar to trees where you paint the leaves. It's very satisfying. It's very easy to paint with 2 or 3 dry brushes, and you got something that looks really good.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something that's going to be real good to see is what painters do with like the wings and
different
what
colors.
Style of feathers. I think that's what's going to set each one apart, I believe, is however they paint the wings and stuff. So.
Yep, agreed. Well, let's move on to the next reveal, which I thought was very interesting. This was something that was shown off, as part of the mystery, I guess. But these were again part of the Dawnbringer set, and this was the Callus and Toll with the Saviors of Cinderfall. And if you're not aware of that, or that doesn't sound familiar to you, that was from a show they did, a Warhammer Plus, and I believe it was a Hammer and Bolter episode, I think.
That's right.
And one of my favorites. I think a lot of people liked the Callus and Toll models. I personally thought they looked really, really good. They give a I don't know what kind of vibe would you say it is? It's almost like a Sherlock Holmes, old school
Van Helsing.
history.
Yeah, Van Helsing.
Van Helsing. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, a very Van Helsing era, and really cool looking models though. I think these, I think these are going to be more HQ type units where you're going to maybe buy these as a squad, but you can add them on to an existing force. Is that kind of, Stu? I mean, from your experience with Age of Sigmar, there's a Stormcast model in here. Would I be able just to buy this box and add that Stormcast model to my army?
I mean, possibly. I mean, a lot of times with these kind of like specialty units, they like the points go for the whole unit, but each model acts as its own separate unit. So like they don't have to like stay together in a group. Like, they can all go off separately to their different, places.
I see.
So, but yeah, I mean,
okay.
I think it would be dumb of GW to not be able to put the Stormcast in a Stormcast list by himself. I mean,
Yeah.
but who knows? I mean, they surprise us all the time. So, I mean, it might
Can
be
you add? Can you add this as an allied unit to your Stormcast? I mean, the whole thing, would that be what it is?
Yeah, probably, because I mean, I'm pretty confident this will be a Cities of Sigmar unit with keywords. So yeah, and they ally within the Stormcast army. So I mean, yeah, but whether you can just pick just the Stormcast model, it's just to be determined. So
okay.
Yeah. But I think the models look sick. Like, I mean, they're like fantastic, especially the guy with the 2 pistols. We see.
Oh yeah.
What was his name? Callus? Toll?
Yeah, I think it's Toll. I can't remember.
Yeah,
one of the two.
Just, yeah. I mean,
yeah, cool looking model.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just, and I think this will be great for like D&D. Like if you're a D&D player,
for sure.
Or especially if you're playing the was it the RPG, the Age of Sigmar RPG that they have? These would be great models to go with that as well.
Yep. I mean, they're cool looking miniatures either way. I think that's well stated. So cool release. Looking forward to these. We had a couple more bits, and then we'll wrap up the LVO segment. This was for Underworlds. I have the Underworlds game. I've talked about this before. I have it assembled. I have read the rules, and I have the tokens punched out. I tried to get my son to play with me, my 15-year-old son, over Christmas break. Nope, the Fortnite was more his thing, and so I was very disappointed. But these models looked cool. As far as the undead look goes, didn't do much for me. I'm not an Underworlds player, so this wasn't a huge bit of excitement in my book. But Stu, anything for you on this one?
I mean, I don't play undead either, but I do like the shaman spell person. I think they look pretty cool. And that beast looks creepy as heck. Like, I mean,
I would agree with that.
I mean, I came close to probably having a nightmare the night we watched it revealed, and I'll probably have another one tonight after seeing it again. So,
all right. Well, I mean, then we'll quickly move on. Thank you for the segue. The very last bit here is the Horus Heresy. I'm not a Horus Heresy player. I don't think anyone on our crew is into Horus Heresy. There's not a lot to say about this. I think it's cool for people that love Horus Heresy and want more. I mean, if you love tanks, boy, did they deliver on the tanks. They got tanks for days. And even one that I think on the live stream, we had some folks call it a killdozer, which it has the bulldozer front to it and the giant cannon. These are cool looking tanks if you play Horus Heresy. Not like I said, none of us play that, but overall, I thought a successful event. I did want to pose the question now that we've talked through all of this. Quickly, what do you guys think as far as an overall grade? How would you grade, A, B, C, D, F? How would you grade this, the LVO reveals? Steve, I'll start with you.
I'm going to give it a B. I thought there was a lot of really good stuff. It may have spread the field a little far, but that might be a good thing for the future, right? I kind of wish that maybe there was more elements that aspire to the bigger armies, like bigger 40K, bigger AOS, but you can't do that all at once. I mean, there's only so much you can do. I liked the variety a lot. I would have almost given it an A if it was more variety across the bigger games, but totally understand. They got to appease a very large crowd, of different tastes and etc. So, but it was still great. I enjoyed it. How do you not? I mean, it's like
it's new stuff. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, nerds unite, man. Come on.
All right. So, Stu, what kind of grade are you giving the LVO reveals?
Yeah, I gotta ride the same train Steve's on. I would give it a B. I think a B for myself, just because I am primarily AOS, and the AOS side wasn't too big. But also, I was going in expecting that. I mean, LVO is known to be a bigger 40K tournament scene, so it makes sense that they would reveal like the Cruit or even the Horse Heresy stuff that seemed like as the primary reveals for their show, because it's just got a bigger 40K scene there. But yeah,
Okay.
I'd give it a big old B.
Yeah, I'm gonna go one lower. I'm gonna say B minus. And the reason being, I think it's all personal preference. You know, I'm sure there are a lot of people that just absolutely were drinking in all that Games Workshop was revealing, and they're huge fans of Horus Heresy and Underworlds. And that's the thing about these. I remember we talked about this on a live stream. I remember when my very first live stream, or the live reveals that they would do, and being disappointed because I only had one army and I just played orcs and 40K and that was it. So anything that wasn't orc related, it was a disappointment. And which is not fair, you know. So now I've got multiple armies. I play all these different types of games, with the exception of Horus Heresy. But I don't play Tau. I don't have any interest in the Tau. I thought the Cruit were really cool, and I'm glad for Lee that that he gets to see that. But there wasn't a lot for me personally. No big terrain. The terrain was small. So the B minus though for me is just because of the variety. I thought it was great that they revealed so many different types of games and different models for a little bit for everybody. So overall, really cool event. I'll ask one final question before we move on to a larger topic around Games Workshop and their release schedules. What Steve, I'll start with you. What do you think that, if anything, Games Workshop could improve on these reveal events? What is there anything that you would like to see? Would you like to see these done more frequently, less frequently, longer shows, shorter shows? Anything in particular?
Maybe not at 11 p.m. That'd be good for us. But I don't know. I'm still a little inexperienced with the whole live stream thing that they've been doing. I've seen enough of them now. Mm-hmm. I think they have a pretty similar formula no matter what they're revealing. And I think that's okay. I almost wish it could be fairly predictable in some way. That may not be bad. That may be kind of bad, but I like the idea of maybe not try to appeal to a mass crowd all at once. Maybe be more specific. Like, all right, it's 40K day, or it's Kill Team day, or maybe not Kill Team day, like it's Skirmish day, it's Box Game day, that kind of stuff. Now we're going to do AOS day. And you might get a smaller crowd, I guess, because you just don't get that like, ooh, what are they gonna do? But you might have less disappointment.
Yeah, I think it's a tough thing for them to do, because at the end of the day, it's number one, it's the internet. Number two, it's the nerd internet. And so everybody's got a ton of opinions on what they should be releasing. And if you get into the comments during the Twitch stream, you're just going to see everybody like either super excited or pitchforks and torches because they didn't reveal whatever army. That's me in the comments complaining about orcs, several years ago. Like, why are there no orc reveals? I'm like, well, buy more armies and then you'll be a little happier. So Stu, anything for you? I know that this wasn't heavy on Age of Sigmar. You got a little bit, but it was more smaller force base. Anything for you that they could improve?
Actually, I'm kind of going to go the opposite way from Steve. I think that it'd be cool if they could I know it's a lot, but maybe show a little bit of everything for all the games that they have. Because there'll be times, especially for the smaller game systems like Blood Bowl or Necromunda or something like that. They don't see anything for 3 or 4 reveals. And so it'd just be cool if they could, just show a little bit of something for everybody, I guess. Even if it's just a single model, we all like shiny new things. So,
that'd be tough. I think it'd be really tough for them to try to hit all of it. They have so many games, and then they just come out with the old world, and so many people were complaining that they didn't show off old world. So, man, they would have to make it like a 2 hour show in order to hit all of it. So I just wonder. Is at the end of the day, we talked about this. Games Workshop's still a very small company. I'm sure it's difficult to even put on this event, much less try to cover all of the games. So I think they're doing a good job. I don't know if I would, increase the frequency of these events, because you only want to be surprised so much, and everybody wants more stuff. But personally, I like the build up. That we can. I wonder when the next reveal is going to be. And if they were doing it every month, it would get old. So I like that they do it probably a little more than I would expect, which is good, but not too much that I get bored with it. So,
well, I mean, before they'd never reveal anything at all. Like, I mean,
right.
I mean, it would be like 6 months before you heard something new. So,
yeah,
this is definitely a step forward. 100%.
It's a step forward for sure. Well, really enjoyable event. I loved the live stream. So please, if you are listening to this, make sure you check us out next time. Hopefully, it won't be at 11 o'clock at night Central, but even if it is, we'll be here. If it's later / earlier, we're gonna do our best. If it's up in 1 a.m, it might just be me. I'll just be here, and you'll see me sleeping on a live stream.
I'll be here, but I'll have my CPAP on. So.
In true Dadhammer fashion.
That's right. Yeah. Tune in if you want to see that. All right, let's move on then to our next topic, which is just more of an overall discussion around Games Workshop and how are they doing right now with their model releases? Are they improving the model releases? Are they listening to customer / fan feedback? Do you think that they are actually improving the models, or are they just resting on their laurels? There's been a lot out there where, within the community, or some people think that Games Workshop's starting to stagnate a little bit, and you've got so much other competition, which is a fair point. Competition could be a good thing, but sometimes it can lead to trying new things. Maybe Games Workshop's going to try something a little different. So Steve, I'll start with you, and I wanted to bring up some pictures of some additional models. And these are ones that are, I would say, fairly recent. We've got a Tyranid model. And then I believe, I can't remember the name of this particular model, but it was the one from Soulblight Gravelords, I think. Just some of the more recent, and they are in active poses versus some of the, the more recent ones with the old world. So, what I think is an interesting contrast is that you've got the old world models, which are in somewhat of a dynamic pose. They look a little more old school, which is they're supposed to, compared to the modern releases. But Steve, do you think that Games Workshop's done a good job recently with their model releases?
Very much. So I'm just going to use my Space Marines as an example, more or less the Dark Angel stuff. So I have a bunch of Firstborn stuff that I was given. I forget which box set it was. It was a big box set but it was still Firstborn Marines. And I have the next box set. I got the Space Marines half of Dark Imperium, I believe. And it was, that's when they went to Primaris stuff. So now I have, just for example, those Firstborn to those Primaris leaps and bounds. There's a difference in the plastic too. So there's something to be said about the material in itself being better with those. Now this is probably 2018-ish, so they're even older. These are the first Primaris, and from those Primaris to what they're putting out now is light years beyond that. And I still think that maybe the plastic that's out now is even different than it was a few years ago, and different better. And there's so much more detail, and I feel like their sculpts are so in a way that if you really want to get down and paint and really get some detail and make some like amazing painted sculptures, or you just want to base coat, wash, and dry brush, you can get a lot of mileage out of some very small, rudimentary and easy paint. or you can make an amazing golden demon out of a very mundane piece. But these, every time they come out with something new, they're pushing the limit of what the plastic can do. I think, like that one, the Grave Lord one you had put up, the bats screaming off as part of the sculpt. And if you look back at like the Necrons, the Shard of the Void Dragon, things are just suspended, and like the old Marines were like, that's it. You get two coaches. They either hold the gun like this, like this, or they're holding a gun like this, and it's just it's all, But now, I mean, who would have thought you have bats, and that's one piece. That's the crazy thing, but I don't know. I think yes, prices go up. Yes, availability is weird. All that aside, I haven't found anything out there that scratches that itch for me other than what they're putting out now. Even the 3D print market, I mean, it's good, but the material is not the same. And I can tell you now, painting them is not the same. But I don't know. They're just really cool.
Yeah, I think the 3D printing is definitely giving some stiff competition to Games Workshop, and the quality of miniature is Games Workshop is top to me. I mean, I play a lot of different games. I've got miniatures from other systems, and they just don't have the detail. Now, there's a trade-off because you pay for it, and everybody's going to complain about the price with Games Workshop. They're so expensive, and man, the sticker shock, especially as a new player, you walk into the store and you get all excited. I remember the first time I walked into a Games Workshop store, and I picked up Stu. I picked up a box of Ogres, and I'm like, sweet, this is going to be awesome. And I looked at the price, for like $60 for like 5 of them. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, I can buy this or a video game that I'm going to play for 150 hours. And even though now I buy that stuff, without thinking about it, because I know that I'm going to paint potentially for 100 hours and then play this for forever. I'm going to have this forever. That's still out there. It's still something that new players will get the sticker shock of, and you can get games that are cheaper than this, or you could 3D print models and still get them on the table. But Stu, I'll go to you. Where do you think that Games Workshop is currently, especially now that you've been in the tournament scene for a while? You've been primarily Age of Sigmar. It's gone through different iterations with Warhammer Fantasy and all of that. Do you think they're in a good place now, or you think that where they are with model releases, are they in a good cadence of release, or is there something that is concerning maybe with that release with the competition at hand?
I don't think so. I mean, like we've all been saying, like, I think they're top dog in like the designs that they have. I mean, they used to make models out of lead and like metal lead and resin and fine cast, and like it was horrible. Like, I mean, if they made that Soul Blight Grave Lord any of that material, those bats would not be that pristine. Like, I mean, they would be flying upside down. They'd be flying underneath their legs. They would not have heads or wings or whatever. Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, there are some plastic pieces of certain kits that are kind of, sensitive. If you like put a little pressure on them, they might snap, but like you can just glue it back together. Like, if that was a lead or a resin model, like that would take ages to make sure it's back together pretty quick. So, but yeah, I mean, I think with the advance of like 3D sculpting and the technology, is that they're just going to get cleaner and crisper. And, one thing I hear a lot from social media is that GW puts too much detail on their models and stuff. And I can see that. I mean, like kind of back to your comment to the terrain piece, like if you paint, one little pouch on the belt, like you got to paint the rest of the pouches, like it's, some people just kind of want, simple is better. But I mean, also if it's got more detail, it tells more of a story. Like, like where's this person's been, so,
Yeah. What's funny is that I played a couple of Star Wars games. I played Star Wars Armada, which is more of the ship building, and those all come pre-painted, pre-assembled. You just put them on the little plastic stand, where they're floating around. And I've also played Star Wars Legion, and those models, which it was so funny when I opened that box up. It comes in a little baggie, and you don't even need glue per se. It's all ready to go. It's like 3 pieces. So I put Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, the stormtroopers are like 2-3 pieces, and they just go together. I don't have to clip anything out. I don't have to file any mold lines. Oh, I mean, it was so great to be able to do that. However, here's the caveat. That's the odd caveat, and I may be alone on this. I don't know, but I remember the attachment that I have to my Warhammer models that I am assembling and painting and spending hours on versus getting a Star Wars Legion or Armada. Both really fun games. So it has nothing to do with the game, but it's so easy just to pull those out and say, here they are. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to play. I don't have any attachment to those pieces. And so when I put together a Warhammer model, it takes me forever, and I may complain that, oh my gosh, I don't have to paint another cable on this terrain piece. But after I'm done, man, it just looks phenomenal. So I think that's the one thing, and Stu, kind of to what you're saying, is you're not going to get the level of detail. The level of detail on Star Wars Legion and Armada is just not at the same place as Warhammer. But there are other games out there that are having some competition, and I think that's something that they're going to have to be looking out for. And I'll follow up one question. Steve, we'll go to you, and this will wrap up our segment here. But there's been a lot of fan/customer feedback recently on the model releases, Old World specifically. Do you think Games Workshop actually doing a better job at listening, or are they just the same company that they've always been? Where do you land on it?
I think they're doing a better job. I think it goes back to just everything that we talked about on those release models, like the motion, the dynamic poses. Everything doesn't look static anymore. I remember the Black Templar box set came out, and those were Primaris Marines, whatever. But man, you didn't have to really know what a Black Templar was to know that they were their own thing, right? And I think they're doing such a better job. Just like Stu pointed out with the Night Lords, you could have easily just made an upgrade sprue, slap some legionaries in there and say, stick these pieces here, but it wouldn't feel the same. And those are telling a story. And I think now they're finally getting to a point where they're making things that aren't generic. Like they don't have like all these Primaris Marines and you just swap the shoulder pads, Now it is like, oh, these guys have their weapon chained to their hand because that's in the lore. And I would dare say I feel the same way about the AOS stuff. And I'm sure that's coming from innovation, probably hiring better sculptors, not better sculptors, but just newer, fresher eyes, I guess I should say. But they're bound to have been listening to somebody in the tournament scene, somebody in the everywhere has told them like, hey, Black Templars don't look the same as Dark Angels or Blood Angels. And I think they're showing that in the product.
Yeah. I would agree. I think from just being in the business world, competition is a good thing. It's great for consumers. Any company worth their salt will want to get rid of the competition. They don't want the competition, right? They want everybody to buy their stuff. I mean, Apple will do that. They don't want anybody, but what it does, regardless of what a company will say, it is competition is good. It really is good because you got different people trying to do something completely different than what Games Workshop's doing. Well, let's try a different approach. Let's try a different material. Let's have less detail. Let's have more detail. Let's make them cheaper. Let's make whatever. And I think that is regardless of whether or not you come down on this issue as Games Workshop should make their products cheaper, they're price gouging, they're, whatever. End of the day, this is a game that we all love to play and love to build and obviously talk about. I mean, we've got a show called Dadhammer, so I mean, it's something we enjoy discussing. So I think that where Games Workshop is now, I think they're in a healthy place. You're always going to have people and naysayers that don't like what they're doing, that never will like what they're doing, and that's okay. There are plenty of other games for us to play. If it ever gets to the point where you don't want to continue to invest in a product, for example. So that's why the market is what it is. But I think Games Workshop, just kind of to close this out here, I think Games Workshop is doing the best that they can. I think their intent is in the right place with listening to more feedback and trying to come out with new and innovative ways to sell their stuff. Old World, I think, availability issues aside, they are doing some things to help kind of get rid of the scalpers, which is a huge problem. So they've made some progress there. So maybe I'm just overly optimistic, but I like where they are now. I think I am very much looking forward to the next reveal. The next couple of months are going to be really, really exciting with all the new stuff coming out, especially even though I'm not an Old World player. I think the Old World's news and new armies, that is just going to be more and more. It's going to be a really exciting year. 2024 is going to be a very cool year for Warhammer, no matter what game you play or where you come down on it. So, well, good discussion. Going to be interesting to see what is going to happen in the future with these issues and hopefully another reveal. Thank you for listening. We will catch you on the next Dadhammer podcast. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Stu. Appreciate your time and your attention. And I look forward to some models to put on the table, especially from the chaplain. Hopefully he'll have some Cruit to show off in the next game. All right. Thanks, everyone. Cheers and have a great week.